Good evening, race fans. Welcome here as qualifying is underway for race 17 of season 3 of the Dark Horse IndyCar series presented by HyperX. It is the second 2-mile speedway slash super speedway of the season as the drivers take to the Irish Hills of Michigan International. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Matthew Rodriguez, and Matt, the season opener, the sister track, if you will, to Michigan at Auto Club, saw 5 drivers coming out of turn 4 on the final lap. By the time they got to the start-finish line, only 2 were left. So obviously, we call this a super speedway type track. With the pack racing here today, we might be in for an IndyCar version of super speedway racing as well.
Yeah, mentioning how similar this is to Auto Club, I can tell a few drivers in the field probably going to have a little bit of PTSD from that finish. And some actually probably want a little bit more redemption there. But this being such a super speedway-like track, we can even see it in practice. There's multiple grooves working around this track, and it is fast. It is about 228 fast.
A super speedway, you look right there at your top 10, currently being led by Nick DeGroot, and there's just a little over a tenth of a second between those drivers, so the speeds are going to be close here in qualifying as well, as still some fast machines have not gone out there. Bear in mind, the guy that is currently sitting P3, he is the defending winner of this event. Michigan was the 7th race of the season last year. It's the 17th race of the season this year, but Covey Moore, the defending winner here at Michigan International.
That's the thing, Covey. We've been kind of talking about him a lot this season, but he is really due for a win. I mean, we kind of noticed it pre-race, but the top 6 in points all have a win leading up to 7th place in points. Covey Moore at the moment, he is winless still this season, but you were mentioning he did win this season, or did win this race last season.
Speaking of a guy that won, how about last week's winner from Pocono, Eric Schaus, now out on the track in that 72 machine, looking to see if he can maybe go back-to-back in terms of victory this year. Comes down right onto the apron there, the shorter way around the front straightaway. Let's see where he's going to clock in. He, too, going to share the front row for the time being with Nick DeGroot.
Absolutely, and we kind of mentioned this last week, but I guess we can kind of hang it back home a little bit harder this week is Nick DeGroot. I don't want to say he's back, but he's definitely been a lot more consistent as he's been in these last few weeks. And Eric Schaus is one of those guys I kind of want to look at because he, again, just kind of got that monkey off his back last week at Pocono, getting that win. What kind of momentum does that use to kind of throw you towards next race?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Another guy I think we need to look at, though, this guy right here, the 99 of Matt Wagner, mentioned about the fact that we had a chaotic ending to the Auto Club race in the season opener. It was Wagner who took the checkered flag, so obviously he's very good at the very lengthy speedways. Right now sits 5th on the board behind Nick DeGroot, Eric Schaus, Eric Peterson, and Covey Moore. Paul Jennings in the 74 out there. It's getting down towards the end of this qualifying session. Still some drivers that have not gone out there and laid down some lap time, surprisingly. Dylan Moskowitz has not yet gone out there. AJ Musselman, who put on a very good show in the 54 last week at Pocono. Gail Brooks, Jim Brooks, who's actually in a new number here this week. We're used to seeing him in the very familiar 76. He'll be piloting the 51 here tonight.
I mean, again, he's kind of had some bad lucks in the recent few weeks, so I don't exactly blame him for kind of getting that number change, maybe a little bit of bad juju off your back, but you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but I've kind of noticed that some of these drivers are not qualifying. That could be for very many reasons of, hey, I don't want to be up mid-pack. If you're not that confident in your qualifying effort, last thing you want to do is start out a race where you know these guys are going to be going 2-3 wide immediately on drop of green flag in the middle of the pack. Usually, if you're unsure about your car, not a great place to be. But also, hey, this is a 100-lap race, and it's a kind of a battle of attrition here. I don't agree with it for, hey, this field can get easily separated on green flag, and if there's no cautions, you're putting yourself at a very distinct disadvantage. But, hey, if it is a caution race coming up front, I can see this being a smart move to avoid accidents.
Well, the grid is now official. A couple of drivers were either sitting in their pit stalls or sitting just at the entrance of pit road. I saw there Dylan Moskowitz, Jeff Hysong, and 10-time winner Robert Maliska III, but none of them decided to go out and lay down a lap time. So Nick DeGroot will be starting from the pole position here tonight, his second pole on the year. He will be alongside of the 72 of Eric Schaus as we take a look at the rest of your starting lineup for this one. And Just a little bit of a thought here in terms of Robert Mileska III. We continue to talk about the fact that he has this championship wrapped up, regardless of what happens here tonight at Michigan, regardless of what happens in the season finale at Indianapolis. But is he set himself a little bit of a challenge? Maybe a last to first challenge? Try and see if he can prove to himself how well he can work his way through traffic at a track that is going to have 5 grooves available to these drivers?
I kind of see that, and it kind of hits me that maybe someone challenged him. Maybe someone kind of called him out on it, saying, hey, maybe the reason you're kind of winning all these races is because you're starting up front. Maybe he kind of took that as a personal challenge and saying, hey, just because I always start up front doesn't mean I win these races. So maybe he's trying to do one of those last to first challenges like you were mentioning.
So right there, the drivers that took time. Row 9 is going to hold Robert Mileska III and AJ Musselman. Row 10 with Dylan Moskowitz and Jeff Heisung. Row 11 will be Gale Brooks and Jim Brooks, and Jeffrey Duncan will roll off from a row all his own back in row 12. 23 drivers scheduled to take the green flag in tonight's event. I noticed here before we went live, we had someone ask us in the comments if we are going to be broadcasting the Indianapolis 500 pole day qualifying next week. Yes, we will. We're bringing you, I believe, the last 2 hours of coverage of pole day qualifying next Wednesday night. And then, of course, bringing you the season finale, the Indianapolis 500, the following Saturday, May 15th. Right now, I believe it is scheduled that the green flag will fly at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will get you the official date, obviously, by next Wednesday evening during the pole day qualifying. But, yep, Flat Out Racing Network going to bring you all the action for the Indy 500 week.
I mean, I think it's a perfect chance to kick off our talk show. I mean, easily 2 hours of us just kind of watching cars go around the track and maybe critiquing them a little bit. I don't know how much you like that, but, I mean, I do like to kind of sit here and think I'm better than everyone else, so...
It's easy to call someone out when you're in the booth and they're in the car, Matt.
Oh, you heard me in practice trying to drive his thing around the track. In my defense, though, I had the wrong setup in the car.
He did. He was very confused how these guys were so stable and he wasn't. That's what happens when you run a Pocono setup at Michigan, but I digress. Nick
the triangle looks like the oval. I think it's fine.
It's different length, though, too. I mean, you're trying to run a 2.5 miles speedway setup at a 2-mile racetrack, so...
Gotta go fast.
All right, so 100 laps for these drivers here tonight. If you didn't tune in to the Auto Club season opener, you can really draw a lot of parallels between that race and this race, especially in the way that the cars are going to handle. Talked with a couple of drivers pre-race, and the big thing that they're worried about is if we go into long green flag runs, the back end of the car, the fuel is going to get less and less. The back end of the car is going to get lighter and lighter, and that might take away some of the aggressive moves these drivers might want to make when we get into a long green flag run, if we get into a long green flag run, but we still got to get them underway, and the flagman is ready to do that. We're racing in the Irish Hills.
It's kind of worth noting here, but Matt Wagner obviously came out with a victory at Auto Club. He has not won a race since Auto Club. You think he's really got a shot here?
I think he definitely does. I mean, it's kind of the been there, done that type of thing. As I mentioned, a lot of similarities between Auto Club and here at Michigan. Granted, the time of day is different. We ran Auto Club under nighttime conditions, but I would have to think if you've been able to pick up the victory at one 2-mile track, it gives you a little bit of a strategy playbook to be able to go off of when you come here to a second 2-mile speedway.
I mean, talking about Wagner, Wagner's already almost driven up 2-3 positions since his start. Started top 5, already worked his way to 3rd, currently working on 2nd of Eric Schaus.
And mentioned that this track can hold them 5 wide if necessary. You see the 5 distinct different grooves through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I saw just about every single one of those lanes being used by a certain driver in the field there in those first couple of corners.
I really think this race will really be decided in turn 3 and turn 4. Because really watching down the straightaways, they're all so single file. And as soon as we get to this corner, everyone's picking their own lane here. Everyone's trying to make their own kind of dive here. Looks like Paul Jennings almost got the back of Charles Teed there on the inside line.
Made a point before we came on the air about the fact that we've had 6 different winners this season. 5 of those 6 are in the top 5 in the points standings. The only one that is not is Pablo Diaz-Francis, who we haven't seen for the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Covey Morse just sliding back to the back of the field. He's currently lost 12 positions since start. Not exactly sure what happened to him.
I don't know what. I think he might have been that car that we saw kind of dart out of line. They're bouncing off each other here on the front straightaway. I think I saw him dart down below the white line, the back straightaway, getting out of harm's way. I also saw Jim Herrick ran just a little too wide there through 3 and 4 and was actually riding the outside wall. He has since gotten off of it and continued on.
Wide.
Oh, boy.
Leclerc.
Oh, someone's flying. I believe that might have been Paul
Todd
Jennings
Schneider.
at 74. Someone else has hit him as well. Jeff Heisong.
Schneider is still flipping.
Oh, man, a hard lick there.
Oh, and
there
Kobe
is...
Moore. How did he get involved?
He's upside down.
He was all the way back there.
Tried to drop to the back, get out of harm's way. Harm's way found him. There's Paul Jennings. Obviously, the suspension gone on that machine as he's trying to limp the smoking 74 back to pit lane.
Ow.
Well, we knew that with speeds of upwards nearly 230 miles per hour in the draft, the hits that would come would be very, very high impact. And more than likely, with how low these cars are to the ground, the fact that they have wings, they were probably going to take flight. We didn't have to wait long to test that theory.
I mean, that's the thing. As soon as these things get into the air, they turn into lawn darts almost. They fly for a little bit, but they obviously have to return back to Earth. But, and I was kind of ragging on Leclerc here earlier in the race. At least in practice, he was really looking fast, and I thought this was going to be one of his main tracks to kind of make up a lot of ground on. He was very fast in these type of tracks.
There's the contact.
Man,
it was Leclerc into
launched.
Jennings. He did. Gonna go down into the inside wall, almost up to the fence, and then there you see, there's the 15 of Kobe Moore going flipping by.
I don't know if Kobe expected. I'm trying to. That's Paul Jennings. I don't know if he expected Paul just to turn right back up on the racetrack.
Well, let's take a look at it here, because he was the one that hit the 74.
I'm going to tell you,
74 comes back up. I mean, if we take a look at this camera angle, he comes right back up. I mean, he covered about 8 grooves of racetrack there.
You know, I'll put the blame on both drivers here because obviously Paul Jennings was on the brake, but I don't know exactly why he kind of turned back up the racetrack to try to avoid. But Kobe Moore also really only slowed down to about 210, 200 miles an hour. He did not slow down at all. So there obviously was errors on both ends here.
Let's take an onboard look with Kobe Moore. Watch up ahead. There's the contact from Leclerc into Jennings to Todd Schneider. And then there you see no reaction time available. And you mentioned it, pretty fast still going through that.
I think he was trying to see that gap, and he saw the cars closing up, and I think he thought he could hit it. But instead of really trying to go down low to avoid Jennings, he just kind of drove back up the racetrack and either way, he's going to be trapped either by Jennings or Leclerc there.
Well, here's the question I have. I mean, granted, when you see somebody that's wrecking up ahead of you, it's smart to lift off the throttle, be prepared to hit the brake. But I don't think at that point the caution flag was out because both Jennings and Snyder's cars were down below the white line. So I don't think the yellow flag had been out at that point.
You could have been right. You could have been completely right. But that's kind of the thing where you expect. I mean, obviously, Kobe Moore has a bit of teammates there, and you've got to expect your guys in the room. At least I know from experience that, hey, when there's a caution going out, everyone in our general team chat knows because we're all screaming, hey, avoid this, avoid this. I have to imagine he kind of had that in the back of his head, and maybe he just didn't hear him. And it looks like Kobe Moore may have left the pit road when it was closed, so he may get another penalty off of that.
He's already 2 laps down as the lights are now out top the pace truck. We'll go back green flag race on lap 8. There is Moore going by Wagner.
Wagner's in a pretty nice position here. So I kind of intentionally waited so we can get past this first caution because I think we all knew this was going to happen eventually. I mean, who you want to put the commentator's curse on? Who you got your eyes on?
I think I've already put the commentator's curse on him. You know who I was calling as my favorite to win this thing pre-broadcast, and that was Kobe Moore. I mean, he's still got a shot. He's only 1 lap down, and I don't think he used the faster pair there on that pit stop, but certainly going to be a bit of a long day for him to try and see if he can get himself back into contention. I'm
ready to go ahead and place that curse on Matt Wagner. I mean, he has shown, at least early on, he has got some speed here. That's who I'm looking at, and I think with that Auto Club experience, he's got at least a little bit of knowledge what he's doing here. Seeing that when that caution came out, we did have a number of drivers hit pit lane. As a matter of fact, from 5th place on down, they all came to pit road, including pole sitter DeGroot. Looks like 4 faster pairs have been taken currently. That would be the bottom 3 here at the moment. Paul Jennings, Todd Schneider, and Kobe Moore taking that faster pair. But there's one more. and he's currently up in the 13th position. Has to be David Leclerc.
Surprised Jim Herrick didn't have an extended stay on pit road. Saw him up into the walls. The green flag flies once again, and they're getting a little racy back there. I believe that is around the Charles Teed machine. And Nelson, Eric Schaus in that mix. They were almost 3 wide crossing the start-finish line for that restart.
It really looked like that restart was not really well executed by around the mid-pack. Just didn't seem like anyone got going there.
We mentioned the fact that of the drivers inside the top 10, the top 5 have all been to victory lane. If you're looking at some drivers that are trying to break into the win column that have had very consistent seasons, is Jimmy Drynan going to go to the point? Obviously, Kobe Moore was one of those drivers. Charles Teed, Craig Forsyth, and Gale Brooks all inside the top 9 in the standings.
Just a notice, looks like Todd Schneider's come on the pit road. I didn't see him hit the wall or anything, so I wonder if he may be serving a penalty or maybe there was something wrong with that car.
Not certain. He is going to, looks like, pull into his pit stall. We'll follow up on that as Wagner gets back around Jimmy Drynan for the top position. Battle is on here. You got about 6-7 cars you could throw a blanket over from third place on back.
Ooh.
Nick DeGroot, Joe McAdory up here in the mix as well. Benjamin Combs in the 77.
I'm trying to see who that is up at the lead of the pack. That's Paul Jennings. Paul Jennings is the lap down. He's currently caught up in this.
That group from third place on back, they are slowly reeling in the top 2 as they continue to battle for the race lead, but not by much. We talk about usually at these type of tracks, the draft is very important, but with the type of runs that these drivers get on each other, it's not like at a super speedway, say Daytona or Talladega, where you can say, hey, let's all get single file nose to tail and reel in that other bunch of guys. It's easier said than done with these open wheel cars.
You know, this may sound like a kind of an odd comparison, but I really take this kind of track almost to Bristol in this type of a way.
Yeah.
Not with the speed, but the fact that one car can kind of just hang around there and kind of stack up the entire field. Look at Paul Jennings here. Paul Jennings has really kind of taken away one of those lines from these drivers, and he's managed to kind of bottleneck this field all the way back. And that just shows you, hey, if one car is really determined to it, or really just in the right place, right time, he's got the preferred lane. He can kind of stack up people at least a little bit back. That's kind of the same thing you see at Bristol, more or less, just seeing one car on that high lane, taking the kind of the runaway off the corner and just preventing you from going out and doing anything.
You know what's kind of interesting, too, if you kind of, again, the comparisons between this and the season opener at Auto Club. At Auto Club, especially in the closing stages of that race, one thing that I recall is that the race leader was always trying to hug the inside line. Forced whoever was second on back to jump up to the outside line, which was the longer way around the racetrack. And while you might gain a little bit of ground on entry into the corner, you lost it coming off of the corner, whether it be off of turn 2 or off of turn 4. Michigan here today seems to be offering a lot more options to these drivers. I've seen a lot more drivers willingly go up to that second and third groove. Some drivers have even been brave enough to go right up to that lane just against the wall.
I mean, Seth, we saw it here, but about 3 o'clock Central, they had a setup change that they said really allowed a lot more passing, really allowed a lot more racing. We're seeing it here, but that setup change has kind of opened up this field a lot to be able to do these 2-3 wide battles.
So we kind of tried to figure out the strategy pre-race. Let's try and figure it out now. 14 laps in, 10-time winner Robert Maleska III, kind of running back in this little group with Jeff Heisung and Jim Herrick, has not yet broken into the top 15. So is he still just kind of lying in wait?
It could be, but one car that's really caught my attention here at the moment has to be David Leclerc in the 50 car. He was involved in that first accident, took a fast track. He's currently in P3.
Claire looking really good here. Did not fare well here last season at Michigan. He did manage to get up to the front lead 11 laps, but he did get involved in a late wreck, finished 16th in that one. And that's kind of been the MO, but it's just been the luck of David Leclerc at the Speedways. He's been competitive. He's been up inside the top 5 in just about every single Speedway race. It's just been wrong place, wrong time. Hasn't been able to close out the deal with a solid finish.
Well, another guy who really just kind of embodies that wrong place, wrong time, or just unfortunate events has to be Jimmy Drynan. And we saw him battling for the lead here, but I mean, would you believe it if Jimmy Drynan's best finish of the year had to be 5th at Homestead? But other than that, there has been no top 10s alongside that Homestead 5th place. So that's kind of at least a little bit eye-opening. And that's really kind of making this run here that he's having in second and first, that battle he's having with Wagner. Really, I think this is kind of his motivator saying, hey, I mean, look, we may have not had a great season, but look at how we're going to finish off this season, at least battling with these front runners.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. You know, a lot of people might be looking at this right now and saying, well, these guys are going out here in desperation mode, trying to win a race before the season ends. But in all honesty, what they're kind of doing as well is trying to give themselves some good mojo for next season, in Season 4, because let's say you're able to pick up a couple or 3 top 5 finishes to end out the year, then all of a sudden you got people's attention for the following season of, hey, you know, they did pretty well at the end of Season 3. They might be someone to watch for when we begin the new year.
I mean, I don't advise doing this, but desperation mode really helps you evaluate your program and where you stand. Where, listen, if everything's off the table, if you're only told out to go win, are you able to at least contend for a win? And that's what I'm seeing Drynan doing here. And he may have not had a great season, but when his program comes down to go get a win, I mean, he's up here, he's battling. So that kind of gives me hope going into the next season and kind of makes me think like, hey, this my prospects of getting a victory, running good, staying. Oh, Jimmy Drynan's on the apron.
Brings it back up safely, though, and still up inside of the top 10. It only took about 7 laps for Nick DeGroot and company to reel in the top 2. So all of a sudden, what was a mono battle between Jimmy Drynan and Matt Wagner, all of a sudden they've got some friends. You got 10 drivers up here. Actually, 10 drivers up here inside of this lead group.
I wonder where Gale Brooks is. I wonder if I can jinx him this week.
Right now, Gale Brooks running back in 15th, so don't you dare.
Which kind of surprises me because he really had a lot of good runs on these types of tracks earlier in the season. So really what took him out of a lot of these races were just events happening in front of him that kind of got him caught up in them and he couldn't avoid them. So that really makes me shocked if he's staying back here just to conserve his car, or is that he really just can't go up there and battle at the moment.
I think that's exactly what it is, because what I'm seeing is a trend here. Obviously, these aren't stock cars, but this is considered a super speedway, and I'm seeing a lot of super speedway-like tactics. Guys from 13th on back, like Robert Mileska III, Dylan Moskowitz, Gale Brooks, Jim Brooks, Jeff Heisung, these are drivers who did not even bother to put down a lap time in qualifying, purposely started towards the back, and that's where they continue to run. So I think this is exactly what you just said. This is self-preservation, waited until we at least get into the second half of this race, so that way they have that faster pair still in their hip pocket if they run into trouble. But I think we're going to see these guys start cracking up inside of the top 10, maybe even the top 5, not until we get into past lap 50.
You know, I'll bring another super speedway tactic here. Obviously, you saw David Leclerc kind of make that charge up for third, almost for the lead. I almost wonder if he was trying to kind of test the waters in a way, seeing how quickly he could kind of get up the field if need be. That's kind of what we see at more Daytona, Talladega, those type tracks where, hey, you're back in the field and you're seeing how quickly you can make this late race charge to the front of the field.
It's a great strategy there, as we almost had some contact for 4th place. That's Benjamin Combs, the brightly colored machine on the outside of Krista Nelson. And then they almost made a little bit more contact there as Combs tried to arc it down into turn 1. Nelson was there. Good run there for Kristen Nelson, currently inside of the top 5. And again, we ended up having that wreck take place just when I was about to talk about this driver. Solid outing for Joe McAdory in that 4 machine. Right now in 6th place, up inside the top 10. Another driver that has really struggled this year at the Speedways. Only 1 top 10 on the year.
I mean, I'll kind of actually lump kind of Joe McAdory and Kristen Nelson to that same boat, where we've seen these guys have speed throughout the season. Now, they may have gotten a slow start to the season, but they've actually kind of increased in speed as we continued on. But I mean, these guys, they're the perfect example of, hey, when all chips are down, they need to go out and win. I mean, look at them. They're up here, we're battling.
Now, this is going to make things interesting. Oop, got one car with an issue there. Some connection problems for Benjamin Combs. But what's going to be interesting is, remember, only 4 drivers stayed out under our only caution of the day, which means that they're going to be roughly between 5 to 6 laps shorter on fuel than everybody else. The number we were kind of given, the furthest these drivers can make it on fuel, is they've only got an 85% fuel tank capacity, is about 30 laps. Now, granted, I'll bet they were able to save maybe a lap, lap and a half, maybe 2 laps under pacing. It only mean that they're about 7 laps away from when they're going to have to come to pit road. And these are 4 drivers that are hoping that this thing goes long enough into a green flag run that everybody else that pitted back on lap number 6 is going to have to come down as well.
Well, I'll hit you with another unexpected, Seth. I mean, we really thought, at least in practice, that the top speed around this track was about 226, 227 at max. I mean, I've seen Matt Wagner get that run up on Nick DeGroot and I believe Jimmy Drynan a few laps back. He topped out at 2:32. So that was way faster than we were originally expecting. That's really going to shift some of these guys' pit strategies where, yeah, when they were doing practice and they're doing these kind of dual car runs, they weren't expecting this type of speed. The track conditions has also changed.
I'm going to find this interesting too, because if you kind of look at the tracks out there with a difficult pit road to get onto, Michigan's not necessarily up there. However, you mentioned the high speeds that they're carrying. They're going to have to back that thing down to, I think it's 70 miles per hour here at Michigan for pit road speed, going upwards of 200 miles per hour through 3 and 4. So that might create a bit of difficulty in terms of making sure you don't get hit with a speeding penalty. But I took the opportunity to observe these guys in practice to see if anybody thought about this race going to a long green flag run and practice a green flag pit stop. The only driver that caught my eye that took the opportunity to do so was David Leclerc.
And that's the thing, like Leclerc has been caught in so many instances this season when he has been running great. And that's been the one thing where I think he just doesn't have enough patience here. He's just not kind of letting the situation play out. He's trying to make more happen with what he's got. So that's the main thing I think is really hampering him. But I saw a few laps ago, Jeffrey Duncan just get about 2 tires on that bottom apron around pit road. And boy, he almost lost it. Paul Jennings is dropping back now. It looks like he got loose in the bottom.
Yeah, he did. Off of turn 4. Almost came up and got Joe McAdory in the 4 machine. Nice save, but a bit of a heart-stopping moment for this group of 5 drivers that are battling from 5th place back to around the 9th position. Now, those 4 drivers that are more than likely going to have to come down pit road before everybody else, the 4 that stayed out under our only caution, your race leader, Matt Wagner, 4th place running Benjamin Combs, Joe McAdory in 9th, and Jimmy Drynan McAdory in 8th, and Jimmy Drynan in 9th. They will have to be on pit road probably about 5 laps sooner than everybody else in the field.
You know, these 3 really catch my eye because Matt Wagner was kind of lighting the field on fire here earlier in the season. Obviously got off of that great debut win, but kind of around mid-season, around Gateway, he really started falling off from the points standings and kind of just left himself out to dry. Van de Sant's been one of those guys we've seen. Hey, he really had a good chance. Oh, about slides up in front of Matt Wagner. But he really had that good chance to take the battle right to Maletska, but just has not been able to really get his feet under him and kind of haven't been able to take a good advantage of whatever Robert has kind of left on the table here.
Yeah, all 3 of these drivers, former winners this season. Wagner at Auto Club, Van de Sant back at Watkins Glen, and Nick DeGroot at Phoenix. And is it time to go? I wonder. Robert Maleska III, the 10-time winner, has now worked his way into the top 10. He's up to 8th place. So maybe with green flag pit stops closing in, he's pressed the go button.
Joe McAdory has led us on the pit road, but Matt Wagner, I heard, is coming in this time. Benjamin
Combs on pit lane as well. There is McAdory, just finished up his pit stop and is down and away.
And this kind of brings up a huge thing where you're having so many guys hop on the pit road. Now, Steph, I got to ask you, because obviously this just went through your mind before. But hey, if a leader calls out he's coming to pit, I mean, do you stay out an extra few laps hoping an incident happens to kind of get you at least a little bit ahead on cycle?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's exactly what you have to do. Otherwise, why did you come down pit road back on lap 6? I think that with the way that we've gone into this long green flag run, they have to have themselves prepared that this may continue to go green, maybe to the end, if not have a couple of other lengthy green flag runs. So if you're off sequence, I don't really see any gaining of then coming down pit road with the race leader. I mean, looking right now at the lap times, Matt Wagner, who's now heading for pit lane, that last time by only ran half a second slower than his fastest lap of the race, and that's with over 30 laps on his tires.
We'll go ahead and double mention this, but obviously pit road speed here is 55 miles an hour, and you've got to get yourself slowed down from about 220 to 55. That is a huge, monumental difference.
What's the thing that we mentioned about the fuel tank emptying? The back end of the car gets light. That might have been why we saw the 99 Matt Wagner almost lose it. I mean, these cars now are getting snappy.
Looks like Jimmy Drynan may have gotten the penalty coming in. He is currently sitting on pit road.
He is indeed. So that would, I belyeve you are correct, be a speeding penalty for the 94. That is a tough break for a car that was up in the top 10.
I see, man, Drynan really didn't leave much to the imagination. Entered about 80 miles an hour.
Ooh. Well, the police out there marking the speeds, and they
Looks
pegged
like
him.
Miletska might have been another one of those guys who got held in pit road.
Right now he's in the. No, I think actually what you're seeing there, Matt, Miletska was one of the drivers that came down pit road back on lap 6. Probably had an extended stay on pit road during that stop. He is on pit road this time, however.
But I'll go ahead and I'll mention something that I really liked that Wagner did. Wagner called out his pit stop about 2 laps before he actually, I think he intended coming down the pit road. And more or less, this kind of adds a little bit of unique factor that you don't see in other forms of racing where all the other drivers have immediate communication to each other. So what Matt Wagner did is when he was coming around the track, he verbally called out, hey, I'm pitting this time. And that kind of, I think, was kind of meant to spook the guys behind him thinking, oh, he's coming in this lap. I need to come in with him. And seeing if he can catch someone off cycle to get him to the pit earlier than he wanted to. And that really aided him because he obviously passed through and pit next lap.
A little bit of mind games being played here, and we're not even in the halfway point. Alex Van de Sant on pit lane this time from the second position. David Leclerc has just hit pit lane also in the 50 machine, which now leaves us with a total of 10 drivers yet to come down pit lane to complete this cycle.
Just look here. I was seeing De Groot up here, and De Groot, I'm kind of wondering about his strategy here, where obviously he's trying to stay out a little bit longer, trying to extend the life of these tires, the life of the fuel tank, but I don't know about getting this off strategy and having, I think you can kind of see where I'm going with this, where you don't want to be kind of at lone man dancing and having the whole kind of field coming up behind you without any help.
Kind of interesting because, we talk about Matt Wagner being the winner of the Auto Club race, the sister track to Michigan. The guy he was battling on that final lap that was not able to make it back to the start-finish line, getting involved in a wreck final lap turn 4, was Nick De Groot. So you're watching the 1 and the 99 with counter strategies here.
It's also worth noting that during this pit stop, it looks like Jim Herrick has also taken a fast repair. Not sure what damage happened on his car, but at least he felt it was kind of necessary enough to take one of those.
Jim Herrick did not come down pit lane with all of the others, I do not believe, back on lap 6, and I do remember him getting up into the outside wall. Don't know just how badly that might have hurt the suspension. Didn't look like he hit it too hard.
Schaus almost missed the entrance to the pit. Oh, Leclerc! He misses it.
And I think that caused Eric Schaus to miss pit lane, having to pull back to the right to avoid the 50 running him over. He has missed pit road.
I mean, I heard it over driver chat, but obviously Eric Schaus definitely spooked Leclerc there, and Leclerc was not expecting him to come down. But if you notice his entry in the pit road, he tried to hop on that bottom of turn 3 and 4, and there's just no grip down there. When he hopped down and just plowed the car right back up the field and messed up his entire entry.
You just saw Jim Brooks in the 51 car on pit lane. Gale Brooks now going to come down pit road, and I assume we're going to see Eric Schaus coming down behind as well. There he is now on pit lane, and you have to wonder, a mistake like that, running that slowly on the front straightaway, how much ground that is going to cost this machine.
That's the thing. Those are the mistakes that you don't want. Obviously, the main mistake that you don't want is the speed on pit road, but the second mistake is, hey, if you're getting down the pit road speed, hey, you want new tires and you only want to stop once. You don't want to stop multiple times, and that's one of the unfortunate facts.
You questioned the strategy of Nick De Groot. End result says it did not work out for him. He was second place when the pit stop cycle began. He's going to cycle around currently to 4th behind Miletska III, Van de Sant, and your race leader, Robert Wagner.
Matt Wagner, actually, but just looking here, and I've noticed that Matt Wagner actually had a kind of a slower stop than anyone else here on track, but that just shows you the power of the undercut. I mean, just the fact that Wagner was able to come in early enough, and he was the first one on pit road. Even if he took longer on pit road, hey, he got a good enough jump from taking that undercut.
So it's interesting now if we look at the numbers. Let's assume again that all these drivers, the furthest they're going to be able to go is 30 laps. And bear in mind that they were able to go anywhere from, I think it was 29 to 31 laps there on that run when they were all bunched together. I remember back Watkins Glen, I made the mistake of not calculating in the ability to use draft in terms of how far you could stretch it. And you have to definitely apply that here today in Michigan. So right now, with Wagner being out there now on the 9th lap of his stint, he would theoretically, if we use the number 30 as the benchmark, only be able to go another 21 laps. We put into lap 64. Oh boy, that would put him, what, 6 laps short still of making it on fuel. So, I mean, most of these drivers came into this race thinking about it being just a 2-stop race. I'm not necessarily certain with the timing of our only caution if they might not have to make 2 more trips to pit road before the completion.
I think some of these drivers wouldn't mind seeing a caution. Obviously, some of the guys who are lapped down wouldn't mind seeing a caution, kind of bunch back up the field, give them another shot. But I'd say specifically for those guys in the top 5, obviously a restart will give you a bit of a bunch up of the field and kind of give you an opportunity to gain a bunch of spots at once before this field gets all spread out like we've seen here.
So the cycle of pit stops have been completed. Jimmy Dryden, as you mentioned, with the speeding penalty, now finds himself a lap down in 21st. Covey Moore and Paul Jennings still a lap down in 19th and 20th. There are 18 cars currently on the lead lap. All 22 drivers that took the green to start this race are still out on the racetrack as we watch this battle for the 3rd position between Robert Maleska III and Nick DeGroot, the defending champion, trying to get the final podium position from, let's say, the outgoing champion.
And I can easily see these two going into next season. If they both decide to return, I would say I can see the championship battle kind of brewing between these two. But in these past few weeks, I've seen some new entries that I can really see making a disruption to the championship.
Just noticed one name conspicuously missing from our running order is last year's Indy 500 winner, Craig Forsyth. And that's a driver that came into this race inside the top 10, the point standings as well, 8th in points. So do not see the 27 out here on track. Hopefully we'll see him during the Indianapolis qualifying, pole day qualifying next Wednesday night. And of course the Indy 500 next Saturday, May 15th.
And that kind of hits me as a little bit weird because, I mean, Forsyth had a really good run at Auto Club earlier this year. Not sure if a personal event came up, but I mean, he was one of those guys that I was really looking at to kind of have that great run.
Now turned into a 3-way battle for 2nd place. Maleska III and Nick DeGroot been able to reel in Alex Van Desant. And this battle is going on 2.7 seconds behind Matt Wagner, who's about to reel in. I think that might be the tail end of the field. Jim Herrick right there in the 57. Last car on the lead lap in 18th. And I believe that is the lap machine of Covey Moore, also just in front of the race leader.
One thing I've noticed here, I'm seeing that Van Desant, Maleska, and DeGroot kind of all hooked together here. So I wonder if it can really make kind of a train work to try and catch Matt Wagner here.
Keep an eye on the lap time, see if they are able to gain. I am seeing the interval slowly continuing to increase, but if they can keep themselves lined up long enough, they might be able to make up some ground. Right now, though, it's not looking like that is the case. Battle for 5th place remains nose to tail. That's where Benjamin Combs is. Actually, that's not even a battle. That's Paul Jennings, a lap machine that is currently there with Benjamin Combs by his lonesome in 5th place. David Leclerc also riding in no man's land. He's currently in 6th. Our Iowa winner, Charles Teed, quite a couple of seconds back, as he looks in his rearview mirror and sees Joe McAdory and Dylan Moskowitz. The 3-car of Moskowitz only runs the speedways here this season, and a good run right now for him as he's going to take away the 7th position, make that 8th from the 4 of McAdory.
That's the thing, just seeing how many good runs that Moskowitz kind of had this season. It surprised me that he didn't really make that full season bid, even with maybe not road courses being your preferred forte. But definitely, if he had at least a little bit more consistent this season, he would be one of those guys that I'd really be kind of looking at the top of the points.
At Wagner now having to deal with traffic. He just put Todd Schneider a 4th lap down. Now to the inside of Jeffrey Duncan, 18th place driver. Now going to go -1. Next driver in his hit list is Jim Herrick. We talked about the issue that Eric Schaus had getting onto pit road. He is still on the lead lap, but has dropped him all the way down to 16th in the running order, a driver that was up inside of the top 5 when the last cycle of green flag pit stops began.
I mean, it just shows you how that little mistake can set you so far back. And again, that was just him missing pit road. That wasn't even a speeding penalty. Just imagine how much a speeding penalty will set you back. Actually, you don't even have to really imagine. I mean, look here at Jimmy Dryden in 21st. It set him almost all the way back to the back of the field. I mean, it's pretty much almost taken him out of the main fight of this race.
We are now halfway through this event here at Michigan. Drivers have to make at least one more pit stop before the conclusion, and if they can maybe save...
One car in the wall. It looks like McAdory.
And he's going to hit it again.
Oh, Peterson!
And Peterson is flying and spinning like a top down the back straightaway.
Well, it doesn't look like that top 10 is going to come today.
No, sir. Well, he does have a fast repair, I believe, so that's at least good news. But, man, it's been a tough couple of weeks there for Eric Peterson. He suffered a barrel roll last week at Pocono. Now he spins on his roof here at Michigan.
Aye. And that just kind of a heartbreaker where Peterson really had nothing to do. I mean, he knew he was sliding down the track, but at that point, if you jerk it to the left, I mean, the whole car is going to go sliding around. If you held it to the right, there's no telling if he's going to drive right back up to the wall. Kind of a no-win situation there.
See there with Joe McAdory, it's almost like the car didn't want to turn for him. It just kind of went straight in the corner. With the speeds these drivers are carrying, would that play into that right front tire heating up so much that the car just does not want to go left?
It could be. I'm kind of noticing the fact here that it looks like McAdory really tried to go one lane up, trying to get at least a little bit of free of Charles T's draft. Now, what I think he was trying to do was trying to get up the track a little bit to almost get out of the draft wake so he could run the corner at normal speed, but trying to arc down, get T's draft exiting the corner and trying to pull all the way past him on the back straightaway. Maybe he just mistimed it, didn't realize how close he was to the wall, and just tapped it.
One thing we should bring up, too, that they are running the legacy version of Michigan, and you can clearly see those seams between the different grooves into the corner. I mean, we are running temperatures in the triple digits here today as far as the track temperature is concerned, about 104, 105 degrees track temp. Would those seams, if you hit them, be slick? Could that have been what also caused the Ford to maybe kind of go straight when he went into corner entry?
It could have, but I really think there's a little bit of bumps around the bottom of the track, so I don't know. I think maybe he just misjudged the outside wall and just didn't realize he was that close. I'm looking at Jim Brooks here, and Jim Brooks had a incredible view.
I believe that just before that caution came out, Jeffrey Duncan was the first car one lap down, so he should get the free pass here under this yellow, giving us 17 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. We're now into the second half of this race here at Michigan. Matt Wagner currently showing the way after he was first off of pit road. Alex Van de Sant, Robert Molesky III, Nick DeGroot, and Benjamin Combs is your top five. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. We'll be back here for the restart for the Dark Horse IndyCar Series presented by HyperX.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize. Because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 NNSCRA Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flat Out Racing Network.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
Green flag set to fly once again here for our second restart of the day. Matt Wagner gets us back under the green flag here at Michigan International Speedway, leading Van de Sant, Molesky III, Nick DeGroot, and Benjamin Combs with 45 laps to go. A couple of drivers got back on the lead lap there with that caution. Jeffrey Duncan with the lucky dog. Covey Moore got a wave around to go back in the lead lap. 18 drivers on the same lap as the leader out of 22 running. Wagner got himself a good start, but as we know, the draft and the slipstream is going to come into play. Look at the run Van de Sant gets down the back straightaway.
You know, I was going to kind of mention, but it didn't look like Van de Sant really got a great start, but man, he has really fought back.
Sudden, it's broken away as well. 4 cars. Wagner, Van de Sant, Maleska III, and Nick de Groot. It's already almost a second and a half back to this dogfight for 5th place.
And just look at him go here. Man, he is just defending that top lane, but he's giving at least Teed a little bit of a room on the bottom trying to make that charge.
He's going to take it. Moskowitz switches from top to bottom to follow behind the 5. David Leclerc in the pink car up there on the top side. You got the lap machine of Paul Jennings there as well. The black car third on the outside line. Then down on the inside line beneath him, that is another lap machine, I do believe. I think that's Todd Schneider, who has multiple laps down the 86.
Man, just look at this battle here. It looks like it's for 5th. Man, they are just going 3 wide all over the track. It's nice to know that at least it looks like the outside line just doesn't have that much grip when it comes, at least not, if there's not a car really in front of it towing it with the draft. But just seeing how much Benjamin Combs is able to come back on the back straightaway just shows how powerful the draft is.
Sant just went by Matt Wagner for the race lead as we continue to watch this battle around that 5th position. And with the timing of that yellow flag coming out, it does bunch everybody back up, gives them the opportunity to be able to run laps in the draft rather than by themselves. Field was very spread out after our first and only so far cycle of green flag pit stops. But according to the calculations, these drivers are still going to have to be on pit lane at some point. When they took the green, they're going to be about 15 laps short of making it to the finish.
That's kind of brings into the noggin where you really can't save that much gas, but are you really going to bank on a caution or try to save a little bit of gas here, seeing if you can go further and wait for maybe a caution to come out with how hard these guys are racing so far?
Well, I don't know if these guys have a spotter, but Dylan Moskowitz just cleared himself twice. He went to the middle and almost hit the car beneath him. Then he tucked in front of Charles Teed when he passed him around the outside. So that 3 car, he's making himself some aggressive moves.
Do I have to buy you a spotter? Hey.
Charles Teed now going to look to the inside on Moskowitz as these guys continue to battle for that final spot inside of the top 5.
Looks like Van de Sant managed to take the lead, but Wagner fights back on the bottom.
And you got Maleska and de Groot just kind of lying in wait in 3rd and 4th. They now get back to single file, back again to the eye of the storm. Ooh, someone got the wall. That might have been Moskowitz brushing the wall just a tad off of turn 2.
Man, they are just lined up 2 by 2 behind. Oh, Leclerc gets Moskowitz.
Oh, and there they go. Moskowitz hard into the wall. He takes Krista Nelson along with him. Joe McAdory just piled in. I think I see Benjamin Combs in the 77 there in the vicinity as well.
And really, I think that's kind of a combination of Paul Jennings was really trying to pinch Moskowitz as far down as possible, just trying to make him kind of uncomfortable there, not trying to make the move. And Leclerc just kind of came up, not knowing the situation in front of him. And it really looked like Moskowitz just kind of got pinched, and as soon as he got that little tap in the left rear, it was gone.
Take a look at what happened here. We kind of saw it in the making, a more in-depth look. And I mean, you were talking about them 3 wide. This was a 3 wide with very little room given.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I feel like listen, it's lap 60. There's still a lot of give and take that could have been handed out there.
A close call there for Eric Peterson. Here you saw Joe McAdory got involved, and there's the 77 of Benjamin Combs on the top of your screen. Now, I believe out of the 3-4 drivers that were involved in this, none of them had used their faster pair, so they still at least have a chance to stay in the race. It is, however, their only lifeline. And with this caution coming out, they still can't make it on fuel if they all came down pit road.
Tell you, my heart goes out for Krista Nelson. She almost made it back to pit road, but man, that thing was just crab walking so badly that she had to get the rest of the tow bear.
Interesting that one of the drivers we talked about that was in the vicinity of where that wreck started, Paul Jennings. This caution is going to save him. He gets the lucky dog and will be back on the lead lap in 16th place. 2 drivers elected to stay out here under this caution. Everybody else came down pit road. little confused as to why, because as stated, there's no way, I don't think, that they can save enough fuel to make it the rest of the way. They would have to be saving upwards of 10 laps to not have to come down pit road again. Why would you be coming down pit road giving up track position here?
I don't know. I'm not that sold on it here. Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they think they can save and kind of get to the end, or maybe they're just trying to get themselves as close to the finish as possible, hoping for a few more cautions to kind of carry them through. Or maybe we're just trying to get within one lap where it's, hey, we don't have to take a splash of fuel and go.
Well, whatever the case is, we'll find out the fallout of it within the next 40 or so laps. When they hit the straight this next time by, we will be at 37 laps remaining, and we should get the 1 to green signal. Got a car coming down pit road there, a couple of cars, lap machines, Jimmy Drynan in the 94 and Jeffrey Duncan in the 32. All 22 cars are still running, although currently 6 of them are off the lead lap. Jimmy Drynan, Jeffrey Duncan, Benjamin Combs, and Krista Nelson look like they will be the ones to battle for the free pass should we get another caution on this next run. Matt Wagner and Eric Schaus stayed out. They're your top 2. Robert Maleska III was the first one off of pit lane. Will restart in 3rd place. Nick DeGroot in 4th. Charles Teed in 5th. David Leclerc will be 6th. Jim Brooks in 7th. Alex Van de Sant dropped a couple of spots. He's going to be restarting back in 8th with Jeff Hysong and Gail Brooks completing the top 10.
One guy I've got my eye on here has to be definitely Leclerc. I didn't think Leclerc got any damage there with that contact, but he's still one of those guys who is bad fast that I really think can go up there and battle for this win.
I believe that Krista Nelson and Benjamin Combs, they would have had to have used their faster pairs there. Same for Dylan Moskowitz. So there's some more drivers that will not have that lifeline to fall back on. I think everybody up inside of at least the top 10, and you can correct me on this, Matt, have not used their faster pair. I think the first one running highest would be Jim Herrick in 11th.
Actually, it'd be David Leclerc in this 50 with that first incident there where, he pretty much went flipping. He managed to take a faster pair, battled all the way back.
And look at this. You might have seen that top of your screen. A car darting to pit road as they now get the 1 green signal. That was Alex Van de Sant giving up what would have been a 8th place restarting spot. Come down pit lane, maybe top off the fuel tank again. A couple of other drivers coming down as well. Joe McAdory in the 4, Dylan Moskowitz in the 3.
Said all these guys got their number, and some of these guys are willing to stick to it a little bit more than others.
So far, we have worked 3 cautions here tonight of 9 pacing laps. 15 lead changes so far, and I think the number that stands out to me, the average speed here this evening so far, 228 miles per hour. These drivers have been flying around this 2-mile speedway, and we've seen some aggressive racing here in the first half of this race, Matt. I have a feeling as these laps continue to tick away and we get closer to that checkered flag, aggression is going to probably be too mild a word to describe what we're about to see here for this restart.
You see a lot of these drivers in the hot seat. They are going to be trying to get up there as fast as possible, and I think this is where push comes to shove here, and still there is a lot of racing left. There's a lot of laps left, and I don't think it should be like that, but I know of these drivers. I've been in that situation before. You want to get up there as fast as possible.
Of the drivers in the top 5, 4 are looking for their 2nd win on the year. 1 is looking for his 11th, as Matt Wagner is going to lead them back here to the start-finish line. Trying to go coast to coast here today is Matt Wagner, as he will lead us back to the start-finish line. 35 laps to go.
Really kind of a good start from the 4th on, but looks like T just did not get going on that restart.
And this seems to be indicative of a lot of the speedway races that we've observed. It seems like there's a certain number at each track where that particular car in that particular position cannot get going, and a gap will actually grow. If I remember correctly, it was back at Atlanta, the top 6 or 7 would get away. 8th place on back just did not seem to be able to catch up. Here today, it seems like if you're inside the top 4, you're at least going to still be up there with the race leader.
I mean, it's a few different factors here. I'm looking at this battle here. Paul Jennings, Jim Herrick, and well, actually, looks like, McAdory. It looks like Jennings in the wall.
And he is indeed. That car is slowing up there on the outside line. Now brings it down towards the inside line. Still very, very slow for that 74. No caution, however, as there was no oncoming traffic.
I just don't see why you're battling that hard for 16th. I mean, I understand you're trying to kind of make as much moves happen as possible, but I don't know about that.
Well, again, as I stated, I don't think any of these drivers can make it on fuel, even those guys like Van de Sant and company who came down at the 1 to green signal. However, if we're talking about super speedway racing, a lot of times drivers will say when you know there's another pit stop you're going to have to make, that run beforehand is all about setting yourself up in the best position possible in terms of running order, so that way you're able to gain even more spots on your pit stop.
Absolutely. I'm just kind of looking through the standings here, and obviously Miletska is kind of running away with the championship here, but I mean, you got to wonder for some of these drivers. Obviously, we've kind of talked about this for the last part of the season, but what can you really take forward going into next season here?
Well, I think if anything, you can kind of use these final couple of races, Pocono, Michigan, and of course the Indy 500 as well, as a measuring stick to guys like Nick DeGroot, the defending champion, and Robert Mileska III. Try and figure out what is it that he was able to find in the first half of this season that I was lacking, and how do I make myself better to be able to be a competitor against him if he runs the full season next year?
It's kind of that same thing, and you got to be wondering. Looking at the schedule next year, I believe Michigan's back on it, but we're not sure if we're going to go back to Legacy Michigan or we're going to go to the new Michigan.
Of course, the new Michigan would give these drivers a lot more grip to work with. Not to say that they've been without grip here today, but
Gary Corley and Jim Herrick almost had a run in there. We got a little bit squirrely out of 4.
they're wadded up in this third group. We've got 3 different packs right now. You've got the top 4 all together. Then you've got another group of about 5 or 6. Then you've got this group, which is about nearly 10 cars, maybe 11 machines in this one. So your own little battles going on here, your own little battles in one big war.
Ooh, and I'm seeing that car. It looks like Todd Schneider he does not look stable in some of these corners.
Interesting thing I've been watching here, too. I mean, we talked about Paul Jennings. He's kind of been wrong place, wrong time as a lap machine. A couple of instances here today as Jimmy Drynan almost hooked Gary Corley there. But you see also, as you mentioned, Todd Schneider running there. I mean, obviously, as a lap machine, you're still out there logging laps in case something happens where you can pick up a couple of spots before the conclusion. But I'm a little bit leery of just how hard some of these lap machines have been racing around lead lap cars.
Now, I've went ahead and I've kind of looked through comments a little bit, and I've noticed that it's been stated where you can gain about 0.1 to 0.4 a second per lap by just kind of swap drafting, but you have to do it really in a precise manner.
Right now, I think we're having a little bit of cat and mouse at the front of the field. One driver will go out in front, then says, all right, you go out and you lead. I'll take the benefit of the draft. I think these 4 might actually have a little bit of a strategy of, if this thing goes green to the end, we want to be between us 4. We don't want the rest of the field to be involved in this conversation.
It's also worth noting that the reason that some of these cars are pitting, they're hoping to catch a quick caution. But again, you got to remember, these cars handle a lot better on a full tank than they do kind of a half tank, empty tank here. So a lot of these drivers would prefer the extra weight in the car, and that kind of doesn't sound right. I'm seeing Gary Corley and looks like Jimmy Drynan kind of battling here.
Drynan, a lap machine right now, would be in the free pass spot should we get a caution. Corley, the final driver inside of the top 10, looking back behind him to Jim Herrick and company, as Alex Van de Sant, who was one of those drivers that elected to come down pit lane at the 1 to green signal. He is still mired back in traffic in the 13th position, but Ooh,
What are
I
they
don't
saving?
know. That's what I was just going to ask you. Is he saving, perhaps? I don't see how you can save 10 laps of fuel here, but again, these drivers may know something that we don't know, and Van de Sant, only one victory on the season, would love to be a multi-time winner with Robert Maliska III.
I don't know, but that's kind of giving a lot of what ifs kind of popping in my head here.
Beauty of fuel strategy racing. You can have all those what ifs, and you never know until that checkered flag waves. Folks, we hope that you'll join us next week, as tonight's race here at Michigan is the precursor to the season finale. Matt Wagner's coming to pit road here, so he's going to interrupt my little bit of an ad read as he will pit from the top position. Looks like he's the only one, however. Next week, we're going to be bringing you coverage of Indy 500
Oh, Todd Schneider's in the fence. He was in the fence. Looks like he may have gotten a little bit of assistance in the corner, but kind of got stuck up there.
Well, he teleported to pit road. No oncoming traffic, no caution, fortunately. So we get to see how this green flag run and potentially fuel run to the finish plays out. But next Wednesday night, we're going to bring you pole day qualifying from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then next Saturday, it's the main event time, the season finale, where drivers will head out with one goal: to kiss the yard of bricks. We'll also be crowning officially Robert Maliska III as the Season 3 Dark Horse IndyCar Series champion. Right now, he is out in front, inheriting the race lead from the pitting Matt Wagner. Nick DeGroot behind him in second, Eric Schaus in third. With when the 99 hit pit road, he would have been within the window to be able to make it the rest of the way. He has, however, fallen a lap down to the leaders. So this is a gamble for Matt Wagner.
Again, I don't know about that gamble because there's still a lot of race left to go, and I don't know if it's going to really pan out.
Had ourselves 3 groups in the field, and Group 3 has reeled in Group 2. Jim Brooks, David Leclerc, Jeff Heisong, they've now been joined by Gary Corley, Alex Van de Sant, Joe McAdory, and others. So a group of about 9 drivers in this pack trying to reel in a group of 4 drivers in the lead pack, but they still have about 1.3 seconds to make it one big group again.
Yeah, I can kind of see the idea, but I don't know about its execution because I'm looking back here with Leclerc and everyone. I'm just seeing how the intense battles are, and I know just one wrong slip of the hand and there's a caution out, and a lot of these guys are saved on strategy.
We saw Wagner come down pit road all by himself. Another driver that is moments away from having to do the same thing is Eric Schaus. Both Wagner and Schaus stayed out under the 2 previous cautions. And so therefore, Schaus is going to be roughly about 3 to 5 laps away from when he's going to have to duck onto pit road. Maybe the one aspect of super speedway racing that might not apply quite as much here, or be not quite as prevalent here tonight as it would be at a super speedway with, say, stock cars, is I don't think you necessarily have to come down pit road with friends and leave with friends in order to be able to get the optimal lap times.
I mean, I guess I can see it where the undercut may help in case everyone else has to come in. But I'm thinking you got to take more fuel now. Yes, it does make the car feel better, but it does in turn slow you down.
Well, Matt Wagner is about a second away from Jeffrey Duncan. But then he's going to have 4 more machines he would have to pass that are all off the lead lap in order to get even into a free pass position should we get a caution. Right now, Krista Nelson in the 15th position holds the lucky dog spot should a yellow flag come out. Less than 20 laps to go. None of these drivers, I think, can make it on fuel. One driver that we're kind of wondering about is Alex Van de Sant, but I will be shocked if he can make it the entirety of this race without coming to pit road again.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Van de Sant, and Van de Sant's not one of those guys that I kind of look at and say, yeah, he's going to save his stuff. He's one of those guys that I look at saying, all right, it's go time, and I watch him kind of curve his way through the field, so I don't know.
Academic, these guys back here continuing to race double wide, 3 wide for position, 5th place on back to around the 11th spot for the drivers on the lead lap. Charles Teed, David Leclerc in this mix. They're coming up on the slower machine there. I believe that is I'm trying to make out who that is. I think that's Jeff Heisong in the 18 who got left out to dry from that lead group.
And that's the thing. It's some of these packs of these super speedway races. You really got to think it's not where you are, it's who you know and who's willing to help you out here.
Jim Brooks has hit pit lane with 16 laps to go, pitting from around the 9th position. So he gives up all that track position to try and jump the gun here on some of his competitors. Right now, I'm loving Nick DeGroot's chances with the fact that he has allowed Robert Maleska III to stay out in front here, use up the most fuel in clean air, providing the draft of the 1 car. So if it comes down to coming down pit lane, taking on the less amount of fuel for a shorter pit stop, Nick DeGroot might be able to do just that. He'd be able to, I think, out of at least those two, be able to stretch it the furthest. And then Eric Schaus, who's been the 3rd car in this group for a majority of this run, he might be able to stretch it another lap or 2 further than that. Well, actually, no, correction. He's going to be on pit road in just a couple of laps.
That's the thing. I'm seeing Nick DeGroot hop back here, and that's usually a sign to me of 1 to 2 things of, hey, I know I can't make it, but I'm trying to see if I can get enough gas to get to the end, or hey, I know I'm not going to make it, but let me see if I can hang with you just long enough to see if a caution's going to come out and see maybe if I can make something happen.
We had ourselves a moment off of turn 2 there, Matt. We just caught the tail end of him coming back onto the racing surface, but David Leclerc, I don't know if he got hit or if he just lost it off the second corner. He had to use all of that access area down the inside of the back straightaway to bring it back up onto the racetrack, and he has now hit pit lane.
What looks like happened is that he just got really loose exiting 4, and he's on that bottom line, and that bottom line, yes, it does kind of historically make the rear end of the car a little bit loose. Caution's out.
Caution is out, and I think
McAdory's upside down. He's back up.
I'm pretty sure Maleska and Schaus were just about to hit pit lane as well, as this yellow flag is going to really hurt a number of drivers in terms of pit strategy, most notably a guy who's been out in front for a majority of this race, the pole sitter, Matt Wagner.
And that's what I was telling you. I mean, it is a risk versus reward, and that's the thing. I mean, the reward would have been, hey, everyone had the pit, and he was looking great. But this is obviously the downside of, listen, you played your cards. This is what you're now having to deal with.
Cal McAdory, I don't know exactly what happened to that race car. It just snapped on him in the center of 1 and 2, darted down to the apron. He nearly collected up a driver that was leaving pit road. Might have been the 77 of Benjamin Combs, and then shot straight up into the outside wall.
And that's the thing. McAdory has really been fighting that car all race and just has not looked comfortable in it. And I think that was kind of just the end result.
Take a look here from the inside of that number 4 machine. You can see him trying to counter steer it. I think as soon as that left front hit the grass, that's what snapped the car back to the right. You saw there wasn't a whole lot of hand motion pulling the car to the right in a jerky motion, but I think as soon as it got the grass, it snapped. And tough break there for Joe McAdory, who had a good run going today. And again, this just completely changes the landscape of this race, because now drivers like Matt Wagner, Covey Moore, Jim Brooks, David Leclerc, who were all in the lead lap, I think they're going to have to rely on waiver rounds to get themselves back in the lead lap, and they're going to lose a lot of track position as a result.
I mean, Seth, isn't this what you want? Something to shake up the field?
Well, yes and no. I wanted to see that fuel strategy race play out, to be perfectly honest with you. It's all academic now.
This kind of puts a lot of emphasis on kind of strategy and a lot of these guys being bold. I mean, obviously, this could have easily went the other way with Matt Wagner kind of stealing the victory out from under him, but this kind of puts new emphasis on, hey, you got to perform when it's go time, and there's 10 laps left. You have got to go.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. We talked about it last week at Pocono. The mentality of these drivers has changed now with the dominance of Robert Maleska III and knowing that the championship is all but wrapped up. Now drivers' focus is to try and find victory lane for, if not the first time, the second time in the case of a lot of these drivers up inside of the top 5. you're going to be willing to make those risky moves to try and go to victory lane, because if you make them and it doesn't work out, it's not going to lose you the championship.
So, Seth, I got to ask, I mean, you think there's going to be a caution?
I think there's definitely going to be a caution. I mean, we've been seeing them mid-pack, 3 wide, all the way for an entire lap. I think you're going to be seeing that up at the front of the field here. Now, the question I have, though, is on the last couple of restarts, we've seen the top 4 or 5 be able to break away. Have those 5th-on-back race cars on this restart learn something that's going to keep them up here in the conversation, or will we just see a 4-horse race again?
Here's the thing. They have to be on it on this restart. I can easily see 5th place kind of getting left behind, but again, it's one of those kind of battles of who you know. Is there someone who's up there that will kind of tap you saying, hey, listen, I'm going to go right now. I'm going to give you a countdown till I'm going. And that's who I'm really going to be looking at, is seeing who has friends up here, who's working together.
Drivers in the garage area. Joe McAdory has just now been pushed behind the wall, joining Todd Schneider and Paul Jennings. 19 cars are still running, 15 of them on the lead lap. Matt Wagner, Covey Moore, Jim Brooks, David Leclerc, they were able to go around, get their laps back. They will be restarting 11th through 14th. As Nick DeGroot, Eric Schaus, Charles Teed, and Alex Van de Sant, 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th, they're looking for their 2nd win of the season. Maleska the 3rd, holding down 3rd place, looking for his 11th. And then the rest of the top 10 with Gail Brooks, Jim Herrick, Jeff Heisung, Dylan Moskowitz, and Kristen Nelson. They're looking for their first trip to victory lane this season. 10 laps to go, less than 10 laps to go. It will be 9 to go this time by. Green flag flies for, we hope, the last time here tonight at Michigan.
And Van de Sant looks like he kind of got left out to dry there, but I saw how much of a run he's gotten on these previous restarts, so I'm wondering if he's able to kind of pull it back together. And look at Gail Brooks. Look at him up here.
Up to 5th by Alex Van de Sant, and looking for more as the top 4 right now enjoy about a 0.7 of a second lead back to that 5th place battle, and look at them fan out.
Man, is this the big 3? I mean, just look at these guys.
Well, right now could be the big 4. Eric Schaus right here as well, with Charles Teed, Nick DeGroot, and Robert Maleska III. Teed's going to take a look up there on the top side going into 1.
Again, Charles looking for his win outside of Iowa. Obviously, one more win would kind of top off his season, saying, hey, I mean, look, we got multiple victories this season. Wasn't a championship, but we can still take this forward. And he's obviously trying to plan out his moment. You can't make this move too early. We saw how many people kind of get passed if they make that move early and have no help.
Everyone was on pit road under that yellow flag, so fuel strategy is out the window. Look at the draft that DeGroot was able to get to the top side of Maleska, who may have runched a little too low there out of turn 4. Looked like his car wanted to snap around him. Crossover, DeGroot to the inside now of the 91.
I'm just looking there, man. 3 wide. T's going to push it 3 more, but I don't think he's going to have the run on the high side.
Here's the thing. I think that anybody that's out there in the front, they're going to want to hold the inside line, defend it, but I'm not necessarily certain if you hold the inside line through the center of the corner that car's not going to push up on corner exit, leaving the inside line open for a crossover move like we saw DeGroot do on the last lap.
I'm going to look at Eric Schaus here. I think he's kind of in that good position where he's laying back far enough. He doesn't really have anyone blocking him in. He can kind of assess the entire situation and figure out what line's going to work best for him.
Eric Schaus coming off the momentum of his victory last week at Pocono, looking for back-to-back wins here on the season. And I'm watching the gap behind them, 5th place on back. They are slowly reeling in this top 4 with 5 laps to go. We could have 9 drivers up in the conversation for this win in the next lap and a half. DeGroot going to clear Maleska. Maleska now jumps up to the high side. He's going to edge ahead going into turn 3. Charles Teed in the middle. Schaus jumps up to the extreme outside line. And then, as you see there, starting to close in, Gail Brooks, Jim Herrick, they're side by side for 5th place, leading group number 2. Van de Sant up the middle.
And I saw Maleska really just pushing down DeGroot to the bottom. And that's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to force him all the way down, trying to get as much room as possible to that inside. Same thing goes to DeGroot. If Maleska really gets that run off the outside, he has to push him all the way to the wall, force him to take that long way around.
Three wide again here in this second group. Jeff Heisong put Jim Herrick in the middle and Van de Sant on the top side as De Groot runs the defensive low line out of turn 4. Maleska with the crossover to the inside of Charles Teed. 6 more miles to go.
Teed really did a good job trying to box Maleska in. Didn't really let him kind of experience that a little bit. Maleska looks like he's trying to run Schaus up the hill just a little bit. That's the thing. That may make this into a 2-horse battle.
Wagner in the 99 does not look like he's going to be in the conversation for this win. He's worked his way up to 11th, but running 2.5 seconds behind the race leader unless he's able to catch a caution here, but it would have to be sooner rather than later because they're about to hit 2 to go.
Def, look at here. Looks like Maleska's trying to make that final charge in the outside. Looks like he got Schaus with him. Just looks like that outside just cannot work when it's sort of lead.
The shorter way around the racetrack for Nick de Groot as now Teed going to jump up to the middle. Maleska back up to the high side once again. Dead even heading into turn 3. We'll see if either line's going to be able to get the advantage, middle or high. Teed's going to be able to clear Maleska. Still stays alongside Nick de Groot. Here we go. White flag in the air. One more lap here at Michigan.
Oh, caution's out!
Did they take it? Did they take the white? That's the question.
I thought they took the white flag, but I don't know.
That was like a bang-bang play right there.
I don't know. I don't see the pace. I didn't see the pace car lights on at that time, but apparently they called it. It is a caution.
And we're going to have to wait and see. Does this mean we go into overtime or...
It looks like Wagner just got loose coming out of the turn 4 and just barely clipped Leclerc.
So now here's the question. If they did not take the white flag, who was ahead at the time that the caution was thrown? Because Teed right now is maintaining ahead of Nick de Groot. At the timing the caution came out, I thought I saw de Groot as the race leader. Let's wait for scoring, see what happens here. De Groot's now going to pull ahead of Charles Teed. So it may be Nick de Groot winning this race.
I can easily say I think de Groot was ahead.
Well, I don't think I've ever seen a caution come out at the identical moment that a race leader's nose, or in this case, wing, hits the start-finish line. But that was the case, and that means that that was the checkered flag right there. Nick de Groot, the outgoing champion, the defending champion of the series. He is going to be a multi-time winner. Second win on the season heading into the Indianapolis 500 week.
Shout out to that rally back from Charles Teed. I mean, he was there. I think if he had that lap to complete it, he may have been able to get by him.
No doubt. Robert Maleska III was trying the third lane. That was a heck of a battle there between those 4 drivers, and almost wonder if Charles Teed had had those extra 2 miles to work with up to speed, if he could have gotten around Nick de Groot. De Groot was running that defensive line, but finally, I can't believe we're saying this 17 races in, we now have 2 multi-time winners on the season, and Nick de Groot will be the second winning here tonight at Michigan International after maybe one of the more bizarre timing of a caution.
There's so many stories here. There's so many stories. I mean, obviously, Eric Schaus could have easily went for his second win of the season back-to-back. You got de Groot who actually managed to win the thing. He comes back for his the multi-time win of the season. Charles Teed almost made his double win of the season. And then Maleska's trying to top it off and getting his 11th win.
And think about it, too. You know, you look at the other drivers inside of the top 10 here. Jeff Heisong, Gail Brooks, Van de Sant, Moskowitz, Herrick. Even the comeback by Covey Moore. Covey Moore was a lap down in this race. Took the wave around and was able to battle his way back up to clinch a top 10 position. All of these drivers with solid outings and comeback runs in 100 laps here at Michigan. It just makes you wonder what kind of comeback stories we're going to be talking about at the 200 lapper at Indianapolis in the Brickyard the Indianapolis 500 rather, next Saturday.
I'm going to tell you, if any of these drivers are going at it like this, I mean, it is definitely going to be entertaining.
Here are the finishing results from today's event as Nick de Groot pulls his number 1 into the winner's circle. A heartbreak, I think, would have to go to a couple of drivers who the timing of that yellow did not work out for them. Jim Brooks, David Leclerc, and Matt Wagner, all up inside of the top 7 when they came down pit road. The caution pinned them a lap down. They did take waiver rounds, but never really were able to get themselves back into the top 10.
That's the thing. I mean, a lot of these guys, they just wrong place, wrong time. That shows you, even if you dominate the race like Wagner was doing, I mean, just that gamble call. And here's the thing, it's nothing wrong. I mean, he had to take the gamble since no one else was.
We're going to be talking with our top 3 finishers here in just a moment, as Robert Maleska III will be the first one we'll talk to. Already coming into this race, had locked up the overall championship, but riding a 3rd place finish into the Indianapolis 500. You got to bet that that's a race that's on his bucket list here as well. Kind of the icing on the cake, if you will, to hoist an Indianapolis 500 trophy as well as a championship trophy all in the same day. And we're going to talk with him now. Hey, Robert, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Wow, what a heck of a battle there at the end. 3 wide, several occasions between yourself, the 5, and the 1. We talked with drivers pre-race, and they said that that outside line did have grip and could be utilized to actually make some passes. Were you able to find that grip line? And do you think if you'd been able to have that final 2 miles under green flag conditions that you'd have been able to clear those guys to pick up win number 11?
Yeah, like once it got past lap, 15 to 20 of the run, you had to run, the top side of the track. And, that's when the skill came in. That's when you could use, throttle control and all that. So, but yeah, if that went green, I think Schaus is going to make it 3 wide there going into 1, come to the white flag. And then I was actually right when we were crossing the line there, I was barely dragging the brake so I could get a massive run out of 4. So I think we kind of got spoiled of a really good finish there, possibly 3-4 wide across the line. But regardless, the setup was really fun, and I was surprised, we got some green flag running in.
Now, Robert, I got to ask you from a personal standpoint. And obviously, you got 10 wins on the season, but you never want to leave anything on the table. Does that hurt not being able to contend for it?
Personally, not really. I mean, I didn't qualify because I thought it was kind of fun just staying in the back, watching the pack. I didn't really want to be in the hornet's nest early because personally, I don't know how, the setup would have been for, once we had, 15, 20 cars on a pack all together. So that first half of the run, I was kind of just riding, doing my own thing. And then, yeah, obviously, coming down to the flag, like you want to win, but to me, it's no big deal. Like Nick and I have had some very good battles in Indy Fixed here, so it's good to see him win.
Yeah, we've seen twice here tonight in this race the caution flag kind of spoil, if you will. It spoiled us being able to see what that finish would have been like under green flag conditions, but it also kind of took away the fuel strategy that we saw coming to light there towards the end of this race as well. On our calculations, it looked like none of you were going to be able to make it on fuel, but did you have a number in your head of how many laps to go when you were going to make that final pit stop?
I knew, it'd be really close, but I figured that really no one would probably make it because I know I would let Nick speak on it, but I'm pretty sure he was like really close. He might have been half a lap short, but there's I think 2 or 3 people that topped off there at the end. I know Alex and Dylan did, and I believe they were saving the whole time. And if they had helped the whole time, they would have been, they would have probably ran out right before the line and been able to coast it, but it would have been really close.
We didn't even know it was actually going to be that close. But Robert, obviously you've had a tremendous season. We continue to rack off your accolades. Next week, we've got the Indianapolis 500 weekend pole day qualifying on Wednesday night. Of course, the main event, the Indianapolis 500 on Saturday. How sweet would it be for you to be able to win that race and wrap up the championship all in one afternoon?
Yeah, it'd be great. I love Indy. I love the IR18 there. It's, in my opinion, it's more challenging than these cars and can have a little more slip and slidey action in the corners at Indy. So it will be interesting if we have a hot track, if we have a cool track, and how the racing will be.
All right, Robert. Well, congratulations on yet another consistent run for you here tonight. 3rd place at Michigan. We're now going to give the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah, thanks to you guys for announcing. Always appreciate it. HyperX for sponsoring the series. New paint scheme. Thanks to Kobe Moore for making it. And we'll see what we can do for Indy qualifying and the race next week.
That's Robert Maleska III. He's going to be looking to cap off the season with win number 11 next week at Indianapolis as he finishes third place here tonight in the Irish Hills. Congratulations, Robert, and best of luck to you next week.
Yep, thanks, boys.
And let's see if we can now get our second place finisher, Charles Teed. Hey, Charles, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
What's up, gentlemen? How you doing?
Oh, man, we're doing good. You know, Matt was talking about there, if we had had that final lap under green flag conditions, it looked like you had found something that would have been able to edge you ahead in that middle line off of turn 4 coming to the start-finish line. How gutted were you to see that caution flag come out just when you guys hit the line for the white flag?
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Nick's pretty damn good, and Robert, those are two of the best on here. But I wanted to see it. I think it was neat that, I had myself and Eric, two teammates, where we were talking to each other. So it was kind of like a 2-on-1 whenever we'd team up on them. And it takes that with their talent level to be able to compete. But no, it was a very fun race. It was a different kind of setup with a loose car, which is what I like. Most of the league prefers a tighter setup, so we've run tighter cars this year. But this is the way I like to drive it. So my goodness, that was fun. Would have liked to seen if we could have got Nick.
Now I got to ask. I asked the same question to Robert, but does it sting being that close? Obviously you don't want to leave anything on the table. Obviously, double wins does sound nice in the season, but does it sting just being that close?
Yeah, it does. So I got to go win Indy then, and I think I'm probably going to have to do that from 33rd. So Scott Goodyear, better look out. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make qualifying next week, but yeah, there's one left. Obviously, those two guys, like I said, and even Eric. I'm in the bottom of threshold of talent of this group, but it's fun when my night it comes out kind of goes my way, and ditched some early action, got touched, and then it was really just running smooth and running that high groove and feathering the throttle. Gosh, it was fun.
Yeah, let's talk about the mayhem of mid-pack, because we kind of saw that every time that we had a restart, 3 wide, some occasions a near 4 wide. We know that this track can hold them 5 wide if necessary, but it looked like a lot of those 3 wide formations were really tight. How difficult at over 220 miles per hour is it to be able to hold your lane when you're in the middle with drivers on left and right?
It depends really where your tires are at. Early in the run, that's very doable. Later in the run, you could see someone was almost always lifting, because people would lack confidence that everyone's going to be able to hold it together. Once the rear started to move out, and you have no choice but to turn up towards the wall, and then that takes you up half a lane, and that'll collect another car. So I was really impressed with the skill of all the group today to stay very light on the cautions. But the mid pack, I created a lot of those second packs by screwing up on restarts. I kept dozing off or something, not getting good starts until that last one, and got a little gap on Vandesant. So it was a 4-car pack there at the end. And then it was just, once we had a second, we knew it was us 4 for the win.
Well, Charles, congratulations on a great performance here tonight. Obviously, as you said, you're going to be starting towards the rear for the Indy 500, but man, it's great to take good momentum into that season finale, and you certainly have that with this runner-up finish here tonight. We're going to have the opportunity now to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys. All season, you guys have done a great job. Excited to have you guys back next year. I want to thank FRN and ESTV for broadcasting these. I want to thank the Dark Horse guys. We got to thank HyperX, Butt Kicker, for all that they do for giving prizes to this league, and for the drivers. We've got some really, really good drivers, and put things together to go at it next season. And hopefully I get home just early enough to throw down a qualifying lap next week and get up near the front to start, because I love that place and would love to get a W.
That's Charles Teed, second place here tonight. National, your Iowa winner, looking to go be a multi-time winner next week at the Indianapolis 500. Best of luck to you, Charles. Congrats on a great performance here tonight.
Thanks, gentlemen.
And let's go down to victory lane. Second time this season, the defending champion is your winner. That is Nick DeGroot. Hey, Nick, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yep, I got you.
Man, we've talked to you a couple of times in the last few weeks, but it's been a while since we've talked to you in Victory Lane. How good does it feel to finally put this one machine back in winner's circle?
Oh man, it feels like it's been years. It feels like Phoenix happened like 3 years ago, but it feels so good to get back in victory lane. Our second one of the season. This whole season hasn't been the title defense I had hoped it would be, but to at least get a couple wins and have a chance at a third next weekend at Indy is just really a cool way to end it. And coming off of Pocono, the disappointment there to be able to come off that and go win here, not just win the race, but win the pole as well, is just, it's really awesome, and it really puts a pep back in your step.
So, Nick, I've got to ask, obviously you seem really excited about this. So I've got to ask, how much momentum do you take to Indy next week? And then how much momentum do you take to the start of next season?
I mean, both of those are key, just, ending the season on a high note. So you go into next season just on a high. I mean, that's how I entered this season, but I guess I didn't really work out too well, but it's all about mindset. So I think it helps in that way. And I was looking forward to this final leg of the season for a while because I knew Pocono, Michigan, Indy, those are some of my best tracks. And it's just tracks I really feel at home. So Indy's going to be different with Indy's going to be different with the IR18, but I still think it doesn't hurt to win.
I'll go ahead and add one better. I mean, obviously, since Michigan is what we're starting off next season with, I mean, that starts you off with immediate confidence.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd actually forgotten about that. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Covey won Michigan last year. I won it this season. So hopefully we factor back and go 3 in a row here. It seems like a track this team likes.
Now, Nick, obviously we saw the caution come out, closing on 10 laps to go. We were really wondering if drivers would be able to stretch it the rest of the way on fuel. We talked moments ago with Robert Mileska, and he said that it sounded like you were close. Could you have made it to the start-finish line on that checkered flag with what you had in the tank, or were you short and we're going to have to pit before the end?
Well, the lap that caution came out, Rob was going to pit. So if that all came to pass and we stayed green, I was going to lose the guy I was drafting off of. So because of that, I don't think I was going to make it. At that point, I was about a lap and a half short. So I would have needed to get right behind Schaus, but I knew he was pitting soon after that as well. And I don't think I was going to make it. I think if anyone was going to make it, it was probably going to be Alex. So I was not sad to see that yellow come out. I'll just say that.
Well, Nick, you don't know how good it was for me to be able to see you coming off of turn 4, facing the correct direction on the final lap, because we know what happened at Auto Club, another 2-mile track earlier on this season. So congratulations on your victory. You joined Mileska as a multi-time winner this season. You've got that momentum going into the Indianapolis 500 week next week. We're now going to give the opportunity for some victory. Thank you, sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, just thank all the people that back this team at Factor Back Motorsports, motorsport.com, 3D Bull Riding, Cowboy Shit, and the great sponsors that just support the league, like HyperX, Butt Kicker. And it's been a good week for us because we won Lionheart, the Speedway race, with Rob, because he's our teammate over there. So got another one this week, and we have another league race coming up on Friday. So hopefully we can complete the trio and get all 3. It's been a heck of a week for Factor Back. Want to do it again next week at Indy.
Well, best of luck to you on that. That's Nick DeGroot. He is your winner here tonight in the Irish Hills as he takes the victory at Michigan International Speedway. Congratulations, Nick, and we look forward to seeing what you bring to the table next week at the Art of Bricks.
Thank you, guys.
That is going to conclude our coverage here tonight from Michigan International Raceway. Matt, we pretty much expected a super speedway type race coming in. I think it's safe to say that's exactly what we got.
And no, that's almost what we're going to get next week going to Indy. I mean, we've seen how chaotic some of these finishes could be at Indy, but also it has its own prestige. It really makes people want to be their best, and has some unknown names usually pop up and give them a good show.
Now, obviously, we know that a champion is already going to be crowned in Robert Mileska III, but, last week we saw Eric Schaus go to victory lane at Pocono. Tonight it was Nick DeGroot after what's been a bit of a winless streak for him, going to victory lane here at Michigan. Do we see a new name pop up there into victory lane at Indianapolis, or do we kind of see maybe some of these front runners we see week after week be the ones to take that checker flag?
I could easily see a new name kind of popping up, someone who may just have, honestly, I'm going to throw my hat into it. I can see Covey Moore kind of coming up, maybe being one of those guys who could go out to a victory. I could also see Gail Brooks, someone that we haven't really talked about this season, who's good at these type of tracks, who really just kind of shows up at the end of the race. I could see him being one of those guys to talk about.
Well, it's going to be a good one, no doubt about it. Craig Forsyth, who we did not see in the field here tonight, he'll be heading into that Indianapolis 500 race as the defending winner. He, along with a number of others, they are going to be taking part in Pole Day qualifying, which we will be bringing to you next Wednesday evening. We'll be bringing you the final leg of that qualifying session to see who will be lining up on the pole position to lead them to the green in the Indianapolis 500, which will be next Saturday. Green flag tentatively scheduled to fly at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will update you on that if necessary when we cover pole day qualifying next Wednesday evening. But Matt, it's been a great one here tonight at Michigan. Certainly a great precursor to what we're going to be seeing when we get to Indianapolis next week. Appreciate you joining me in the booth.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks to everyone that tuned in here tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage. Up next Friday night, we're going to be bringing you, I believe it's the All-Star race for Backfire Sim Racing. That should be a good one. That'll be on Friday night. We hope that you guys will join us. For Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flat Out Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flat Out Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flat Out Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flat Out Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.